Hey, what's happening, guys? We're going to go back to some of the teachings of the Vedas. Highly recommend these. The Bhagavad Gita, the Srimad Bhagavatam, Sri Upanishad. These are just incredibly beautiful texts that can give you insight into so many things. I've been studying these for a long time, and the only reason why my results are not as good as I had hoped is because I haven't been following as closely, been studying them, but I haven't been applying. You could study nutrition all day long, but if you don't apply it, then what are your results going to be? So when you find things that you can feel deep inside that are true, to apply those and get those results, reap the rewards of your labor. So in the Vedas, it talks about two realities, two different distinct types of energies. There's the spiritual and the material. And the difference is that the material energy is constantly changing. You know, if you have a house and it just sits there and it's never repaired, it just eventually falls apart. So the difference between the spiritual and the material is the spiritual energy, it doesn't change. In the Bhagavad Gita, it talks about the living entity residing in the body is actually you. You're not the body. There's a spiritual being, an eternal being inside the body that's animating the body. And this spiritual energy cannot be degraded. It can't be dilapidated. It can't be cut. It can't be affected by the weather, by moisture, nothing. It's always eternally the same. So that's why you are who you are. You have a particular personality that will be unveiled as you get closer and closer to that ultimate enlightened stage. So you go through these processes, these stages of enlightenment, that you understand that you're actually an eternal spiritual being, that only the body can die. You actually can't die, which is some great relief for a lot of people. And for the people that it doesn't give relief to, it's just simply because they're in a suffering condition and they don't want to suffer eternally. But the fact of the matter is, we're constantly learning and progressing so that we can understand the proper way to live, so that we're actually eternally living in a blissful state full of knowledge, which in the Vedas is called Sat, Chit, Ananda. This state of Sat, Chit, and Ananda. Blissfulness, Ananda means blissfulness. And then Sat and Chit are eternality and knowledge. So I'm super attracted by that, being full of knowledge, being eternal, and being in a blissful state. And so how do we get there? Through these different processes of meditation, within the process of bhakti yoga, which I practice, it slowly washes away, cleanses away all of your preconceived notions, all your misconceptions, all your illusions, so that you start to see reality for what it really is. And so then you understand, it's like, what can I do with my life? And then it's a life of service. And depending on the purity, the quality of the service, is how much you'll progress in your enlightenment. So if you're helping someone with their nutrition, it's admirable for sure, because it's going to help them have a better functioning body. If you're helping someone unwind their psychological problems, this can help them in many ways. It could help their body, it could help their brain, it can help their personal relationships, it can help their decisions. So you're being helpful. But ultimately, these things are still temporary solutions to a problem that we want to be solved forever. And this is where the higher stages of understanding come in with the Bhakti Yoga process, where these are eternal solutions. Reconnecting with our divine consciousness. When you talk about spiritual life from the Vedic point of view, we're talking about 3 different levels of the supreme reality. Sometimes people call it God, some people call it Bhagavan, some people call it the divine consciousness, however you want to call it. We're not going to try to be too sectarian here, just give general concepts of what it is. But there's 3 different levels. There's the impersonal, all-pervading divine energy, which is like the atmosphere that you're surrounded by. And then There is your own personal guide of divine consciousness known as the Paramatma that's within your heart, that you can always turn to for guidance on what's right and what's wrong. And then the ultimate realization, the final realization in the Vedic teachings is Bhagavan, the Supreme Person. So the reason why we're all yearning for loving relationships, we can't just be content with just being alone, surrounded by just inert matter. A lot of times people even that go to a cave or go into a cabin and isolate themselves, a lot of times they'll make friends with an animal because it still has a personality that they can relate to. If you remember that Tom Hanks movie, Castaway, it wasn't really any personality he could relate to. There was no people there was no animals that he could find. So he actually started to become, or at least some semblance of having some friendship with this volleyball. I think it was a volleyball. And of course he painted a face on it, so to give it a little bit more of a characteristics of like a real person. So he was going mad, he was going insane without having a relationship. Of course he missed his wife and his friends and colleagues and everything like that. Similarly for us, it's like we thrive with community. And the only ones that I have seen that still are able to thrive without community, those very austere ascetics and sages, it's because they have gotten to such a deep realization of the Supreme. So now they're relating with the Supreme Person, right? So the ultimate reality, the ultimate spiritual reality is us being spiritual beings, and then the Supreme being our best friend and someone who we can relate to. And this Bhakti Yoga process helps us understand this. We can develop this consciousness and actually start to realize this, not just in theory, actual realization, actual understanding, actual relationship. This is the key. So let's work on these things together. Tell me how you're going. Get the body and mind fit, start gaining knowledge. There's so much access to so much wonderful information about living a healthier lifestyle in all ways. You can just go on walks and listen and learn. You can tease this out pretty quick. You put 10 hours of work into this where you don't know much, and you'll know more than a lot of people within 10 hours of serious study. And after 100 hours, put in a half an hour a day, every day for a year, you've got over 100 hours now. And you were going to be in the top 1% at least. Do that for 10 years. That's 1,000 hours. You'll be in the top 0.1% or even better. You'll be all getting close to an expert with that. And if you do it for the rest of your whole life, half an hour every day, learning about nutrition, physical exercise, how the body works, how the mind works, spiritual life, it's guaranteed huge improvements, huge improvements. Things like anxiety and depression can disappear. Lethargy, the joys of life, the joys of just appreciating the sunshine and the beautiful forms of the plants and the earth, and treating the earth with respect, and treating people with respect, and treating yourself with respect. Just a positive feedback loop. You just continue to have more and more joy. You're more content with simple things. You're more even-keeled. You're not super emotional. Dr. Amen, the brain health expert, talks about, my wife was saying, don't get too excited or don't get too sad. Stay a little bit more even. When things happen that are amazing to you, temper it a little bit. Don't let your brain go crazy. And when things seem like they're catastrophic, take some deep breaths, go on a walk, do a little bit of meditation, and just know this is passing. Edible.